Well, hello ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I'm back in the workshop after a short break over the winter period, and I'm keen to get on with this classical style acoustic guitar. Now then, it's been a while, so I thought before I start this video, let's have a quick recap of where I got up to. My plan was to build a conventional classical style acoustic guitar. When it came to selecting the woods, I decided to use some Zebrano for the top. That got me thinking. Waves in the grain reminded me of the sea. So why not make the sound holes silhouettes of dolphins? I experimented using mother of pearl to create water droplets which look really good against a sea blue dye. So I cut out over 60 tiny water droplets and embedded them in the top to create the water splashes, giving movement to the dolphins. I decided to use fan bracing under the top, as I believe this will help the string vibrations travel out from the bridge. It also meant that I could avoid the dolphin silhouettes. I bent the Santos Rosewood ribs using a homemade bending iron and a former. I was advised that Zebrano would not be as stable as the conventional Sicta spruce top used on acoustic guitars. I needed to strengthen the body to take the pressure off the top. For this, I created two laminated beams which run the length of the body. The back was made from 4 pieces of walnut. The body was assembled in a frame. The neck, a lamination of Santos Rosewood and Zebrano, fits into the body using a dovetail. Okay, so that's about as far as I've got. Back to Dave in the workshop. Now, if you've been following this series, you will know that I've got up to quite a bit more in this adventure in guitar building than I've just summarised. One of the things I've been working on was a boat bridge. There we go. And a tail stop. Literally a tail stop, something like that. And also I've been working on a bar of dolphin. I don't know if you can see that, because I had an idea to use a bit of marquetry on this build. I'm still not sure, to be perfectly honest with you, how I'm going to use that, but anyway, we've got this stick of dolphin if we need it. And I was also working on the fretboard. Now unfortunately I've got a problem with the fretboard, which is best illustrated if I light on the body here and press one end. Now, you know, I'm going for waves in this build, but a wave like that on the fretboard is not going to do anybody any favours. It's rather a shame because I like this piece of wood. It was the last piece of olive that I had, and I was trying to shore it up with a bit of Santos Rosewood at the back. It's failed. So that's got to go in the bin, unfortunately, and I'm going to have to come up with a new fretboard. Now another issue is the boat bridge. Now then, we just come back from a holiday in Thailand, and a couple of years ago while we were there, we went to the Surin Islands just off the coast, and on the Surin Islands live the Morcan people. They're all known as the sea people, and they do beautiful carvings and sell those to the tourists. And sure enough, we bought a little boat. Now I rather like the shape of this boat, and when I look at my boat against this boat, well, there's no comparison. Let's have a closer look. While mine looks like the sort of barge you might get on the River Thames, the Morcan boat looks really stylish. And so what I think I'm going to do is replace this boat, get rid of it, throw it, it's gone, and replace it with something that is modelled on this beautiful carving. Do you know, it's amazing what you can pick up in supermarkets in Thailand. I went in and I saw a pack of pencils. It's really cheap and I need some pencils for my workshop. Behind the pencils was a little box, and in the box were jeweller's saw blades. Now this is a little supermarket, and I have to tell you, when I took it to the till, the girl looked at me really strange and they had to rummage around to try and find out what the price was. 50 baht. That's a real bargain, so I bought a couple. Also got some super glue as well, really cheap. Of course, it's a bit of a long way to go to pick up some pencils, saw blades and super glue. But there's a lot more to Thailand, and for me it's a bit of a retreat, and it gave me an opportunity to work on an exciting project. Of course, building a guitar like this is an exciting project in its own right, especially because I haven't built an acoustic from scratch before, and so I'm learning an awful lot along the way. But I think because I put the dolphins on the front there, it started giving me ideas, and I sat down and wrote a little tune which I was going to use as a demo once the guitar's finished. But I felt that it had turned into a song. So you may remember in my previous video I asked if anyone could sing and would help me with this song. And I had a response from Cameron, Volker and Stephanie. And to cut a long story short, I now have a beautiful version of that song. And these guys inspired me because I thought, why don't I try and create a concept album based around the dolphins in the sort of style of Rick Wakeman's Journey to the Centre of the Earth, or Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. There's quite a few of these sort of albums. So it would include narration, singing and instrumentals. And I would play that as the backing for the full build video. But not only that, I'd put it on Bandcamp, and any sales we got from that, all the money would go to charity. Now then, the guys that got in touch with me are really excited about working on this sort of project, and I am too. And I've now also brought in Owen, who's a bass player, and I will be looking for some more instrumentalists and musicians. So please listen out, because I'll put all the details at the end of this video. This is purely a voluntary thing. It's just, I do enjoy giving myself a bit of a challenge and then seeing it through. And while I was in Thailand, it gave me an opportunity to write out the story, and it sort of turned into a bit of a novel, sort of the first part of a novel. But I'm hoping that I can now summarise that into a really concise concept for the album. Going to take a while, so the final build video might not be out for some time, but then I've got to finish this guitar and there's a lot to do. So enough waffle, I'm going to get on. Now I think I'm going to tackle the boat first. Replace this. Now I produced this with a Van Col. It's my favourite wood for this sort of feature on a guitar. I'm using it for the tail stop, and I think it will work really well with this boat with a nice sort of outline on it. This is the last piece, so yeah, I better make it work. Obviously the problem I've got is I've got to go for quite a low profile because the bridge doesn't need to be too high. I've also got to put these slots in as well. This is going to help the bridge stay in the right place. It's obviously going to need to be scaled down, but let's take some measurements. So the centre is 54 mil, so you can see why I needed pencils, can't you? So we've got that's 54 mil. Now then, at the very ends we go down to let's call it 12, so 12 mil on the ends there, and the length of this is, and I won't include those tail pieces at the moment, helps if we've got the ruler around the right way. We're looking at, that's 200, so from there to there 200, and then we've got the little bits at the front and the back which we'll just add a little bit on. Again, I can't curl things up, and I can't put oars on, so everything's going to have to be flat. But I think we can cope with that. Okay. I think I'll whip in and draw this up on SketchUp, because then I can put the saddle in and get all the right sizes. Well, look, it's a new day, and let's be honest, we don't need a computer to draw out this shape, do we? So what I've done, I've scaled the shape down, and I've drawn it on this squared paper, and I've cheated a little bit because this is at the right angle, this saddle point. So I've found the centre of the saddle there, which is it's 80 long, so it's 40. And basically I've drilled a couple of holes through there and just stuck my pencil through and marked the holes. So I've got the line now for the saddle, and I've got the shape. So I'm going to cut this out and then cut it out of that Avancol. I've glued this onto some cardboard, so it'll give it a bit of rigidity as a template. I've also added a couple of beams on the front and the back, which I can just shape once I've cut the main shape out. So here goes. Magic. I need a piece 12mm thick from this block here, and well, I'm just looking and I noticed that it's about the right width there, so I'm thinking I might take the cut off the end there rather than trying to slice it across there. Quite pleased with that. As a blade I've sharpened, that is, and it's cut through there really nicely. Interesting, got some marks on that side there. I've got to carve a bit off the edge anyway, so perhaps that's not a problem. Alternatively, I could use this side, which looks better. Let's do this side. Okay, so well, let me mark it out. Problem I have when I'm filming, so I get a bit carried away and start doing things in the wrong order. Before I stick the template on this, I need to prepare this wood, smooth off both sides, because they're a bit rough at the moment. So let's see if we can do that. It's not looking good. I'm getting a lot of tear out. Okay, so is it because I'm effectively doing it on an end grain there? Okay, let's just try another way. Right, well, before I go at the actual piece with the plane, this is the offcut. So let's see what we get with this. I mean, this plane is pretty sharp. If I get tear out again, I'm going to do it a different way, I think. Okay, so with the wind howling outside, yeah, I've got a bit of a dilemma here because, yeah, you can see that that has got a tear out in it, and it's going to cause me loads of problems. So I'm thinking, should I switch to this Santos Rosewood that I've got? I've got a bit of a block left. I don't think I'm going to have the same trouble with this, but of course it'll mean I'll need to make a new tail stop as well. But yeah, I think that's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say. So let's start cutting this. Perhaps my days with Avancol have come to an end, and it's time to venture into new woods. Now that's an altogether different finish. That's really nice. Wonderful. I'm going to have to carve quite a bit of this away to create that slot for the saddle, and I'm hoping this time I can create a much neater slot than that, because that's a bit ugly if we're honest. Anyway, let's get the centre and get this all marked up. I'm also going to mark the ends of the saddle. And while we're here, the centre line down the middle there. Well, look, I've made a start. I think this is going to look really nice. Obviously, I've got to do a lot of carving on this. I'm not going to do that in this video because I'm sort of running out of time this week. So, yeah, that'll hopefully be in the next video. I've also got to make a new one of these, but I also need to think about the shape of this because I wasn't quite happy with it. It sort of interacts with one of the dolphins a bit too much, so we'll see about that. Okay, well, it's a new day and I've been giving some thought to how I'm going to create the slot on this bridge for the saddle. Now then, I created a jig that allows me to create a straight slot using my router and the Dremel. When it came to this one, I thought the best way to do it was by hand. And to be honest with you, I made a bit of a mess of it. So, I've had an idea. Rather than trying to route it, which always gives me problems, what I'm going to do is drill a hole at each end and use the scroll saw, to create the slot. Obviously, the downside of this approach is that the slot is going to go all the way through to the bottom. But then I can actually fill that, because I can create a nice little fillet just to go into the slot at the bottom to the right height. And I don't think that's going to be a problem. So the first thing I need to do is drill a couple of holes. I'm going to go in with a 3mm bit. Of course, nothing's ever straightforward, is it? And I've had to use one of my jeweler's saw blades and use these special sort of fittings, which I've never used before. So I've no idea how this is going to work out. And it could just pop as soon as I put pressure on it, but let's see. So far so good. Let's give it a go. Honestly, I probably wouldn't recommend that approach. Yeah, it's not very easy to keep it square, but it's reasonably good. That will slide in there. It's a bit too short at the moment. I think once I've sanded it down a little bit, there's a bit of a bend on the end there. If I could sand it down, make it a little bit wider, I think that's going to do the job, you know. Well, look, it's great to be back in the workshop cutting and shaping wood. That's what I enjoy doing. So thank you for staying with me on this build. Now then, I mentioned at the beginning about this concept album, and I'm sorry to bore you with it, but it is quite an exciting project for me. And well, I'm looking for some help with this project. in so much as I could really do with somebody who can play drums and someone who can play keyboards. Now, I can play keyboards, I can play guitar to a certain level, but I lack finesse. I've been using Cubase for about 30 odd years, so I know how to put songs together on that, produce songs, so I think I can cope with the general production and sort of composing of most of the material for this album. But as I say, I lack some of the finesse, and I certainly can't sing, but I found some great vocalists, so I'm really looking for someone who can play drums and someone who can play keyboards. Now, this is a purely voluntary thing, it's just a bit of fun, but anybody who is interested, they will need to have facilities to record themselves. I mean, I can send backing tracks and that sort of thing over, but you would need to be able to record the tracks and send me the WAV files back so I can mix them in to the main tracks. But anyway, what I'm going to do is play out with a couple of snippets from the sort of draft songs that I've put out so far. And if you're interested, please contact me through my website. The link is in the description below. There's a contact form on the website, and I can get back to you with all the details of this to see if you're interested. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll be back soon. In the meantime, stay safe. Cheers.